I didn't practice this or anything, so my apologies if it kind of trails off and does this sort of thing. So I've been working in the back on the balloons, but you may not also know that I am a mom. I'm a mom of 4 kids, and my second child was born, gosh, almost 12 years ago, and he had a pretty tumultuous entrance into this world. I was in labor for about 36 hours, and it was hard labor. And when he came out, his head was really long, and we didn't know what was going on. And it turned out that at some point, 2 weeks prior, he had had a stroke before he was born. My apologies too if I start bawling. And so, this was not the moment that I was expecting. I was expecting to have a baby kind of handed to me and I could, cuddle this big ball of mess. But instead, he was whisked off to the NICU. And I remember at like 2 o'clock in the morning, they wheeled in a cart with the pumping machine so that I could pump for him. And I was there all by myself with this, cold, dark room with this cold, dark machine. And I didn't have a warm little baby with me. And it was a really hard night. And finally, the next day, they told me he was going to get brought over to Strong. And thank you, Strong, and all the wonderful nurses in the NICU. I remember I could have stayed at Highland all by myself, and instead I signed myself out against medical advice and, hobbled my way over to Strong. And I remember the first time I got to hold him, and it was the most amazing thing in the world, and 12 hours later getting to hold my baby. And we were in the hospital. It turned out he has hydrocephalus, which means his head doesn't absorb the fluid that cushions your brain very well. So he had to have a shunt put in at 2 days old. But a week later, I got to bring him home. And so the very first thing I did as soon as I got home, and this was 12 years ago, thank you, Internet, and thank you for the support of the Internet, because I was able to get on there and Google, or whatever we did back in the day, it may have been before Google, and looked up, infant stroke, because I had no idea that a baby could have a stroke. And I happened to stumble across this wonderful organization, the Children's Hemiplegia and Stroke Association. And they've been there since day 1. Sorry. But they've been there with, other parents who had kids who had strokes. Other kids, he's grown up along with them, so he's not the only one in the world. We've been able to go on little vacations to go and see the other kids. The first time he got to see, a room full of kids who had all had stroke and all had cerebral palsy, he was absolutely blown away by the support and the knowledge that, he wasn't alone. And knowing what it was like to be alone in that room with that cold machine, and knowing that he doesn't have to be alone is the most amazing thing in the world. So they've been a fantastic support.